Diving in the 50s and early 60s would often prove to be a test of a person's character. Divers were literally diving into the unknown. Formal education and dive certification would not become reality until years later. The development of the Gagnon Cousteau Aqualung in 1943 provided divers a new freedom from the tethered airlines to the surface. But even the Aqualung's functionality was being refined in these early years. Diving equipment, common to today's standards, such as buoyancy control devices and redundant air source options, were non-existent. Many divers often pushed the limits of physical and emotional endurance. Diving often proved to be a measure of a man's inventiveness, perseverance, and in some cases, his sanity. So what would prompt a man in those early days to choose commercial diving as a livelihood, and additionally partake in sport diving as a recreational activity for over 50 years? Some may say diving was a way of life, while others say he had ice water in his veins. But most would agree Cletus Eugene Turner was a charismatic character with an inventive spirit and a fearless reputation for trying the unknown. Known to his friends and acquaintances simply as Gene, he was a true pioneer in shipwreck discovery and diving. A commercial diver by trade, he developed many equipment firsts, inventing safety concepts and equipment innovations before their times. As Gene progressed in his diving career, his need for different diving equipment was met by his own creativity. During this time, necessity truly was the mother of invention.
This diving tank did not have a reserve valve on it that they call 5-minute reserve, which is actually a shutoff at 300 pounds. And then you pour your wire on the side of the tank, and that'll give you a remaining 300 pounds in your tank. My tank did not have that. It came with a little button. When you got low on air, then the air did not come as plentiful. This automatically forced you to the top. I consider that safer than the J valve. I had an associate of mine lose his life with the J valve in the early years because he bumped the valve against the cave that he was diving in, and then when he needed his reserve, he had none. Where when I needed my reserve, it was there, it was just coming slower and slower and would actually force you right up and out of the water. But during my travels, I was able to run into a factory in Chicago that produced neoprene rubber. What I did In this suit that I built a turtleneck that you can turn down for the very purpose of trapping air under it to help me float on the surface. Now, under the arms of this suit, behind the knees, anywhere there would be a gap, I added extra padding. A water gap, your body will not reheat this. Water in this suit at your body temperature will heat. In abundance, your body cannot handle this. So that was the idea of the extra padding in all the locations necessary. I invented my own weight belt where you only discarded the weights with one buckle. And if I needed to regulate my flotation, I could drop a weight. This overcome a BC vest. Now, when I overcame a BC vest, if you look at my photos when I was 40 years old, I was slim, trim, and hardly anything hanging on me. Nothing from my hands to my shoulders, like meters and computers. I didn't need any of that stuff. I didn't use it.
Born into an era when scuba diving was in its infancy, there were no rules or safety requirements to follow back then. Divers followed gut instinct and relied on their own experiences to keep them from disastrous situations. A Midwestern farm boy, born in 1927 in Wabash County, Indiana, Gene was the oldest of 9 children growing up along the Wabash River in southern Indiana.
I was born near Carlisle, Indiana, near the Wabash River, 2 miles from the river, in a little white cabin by a midwife.
As a boy, he was fascinated by shipwrecks. He enjoyed reading up on the subject every chance he could. Swimming was also a fun pastime of Gene's. He learned to swim in a bluegrass prairie pond with hogs on one side and cows on the other. As a young man of 17, he entered into the United States Navy in 1943 during World War II. During his tour, he was trained on the use of underwater rebreathers as a member of the Navy Seabees. Continually looking for new adventures, Gene found the excitement of wreck diving in 1960 when he discovered an old steam crane in a flooded quarry.
In the 40s, I was married, started a family. One of my daughters come down one day and told me that in the clay hole, an old man said there was a crane. The clay hole had filled up in 1880. 30 minutes later, I was at that clay hole. 35 foot deep, I found that crane. That was my first wreck.
Over the years, Gene has discovered numerous shipwrecks from the depths of Lake Michigan. The finding of these wrecks, dating back to the 1700s and 1800s, bestows upon Gene the honorary title Master Shipwreck Hunter.